Hi, boys and girls. Thank you for checking in with your learning for today. This week for writing and continuing all the way through the next couple weeks, we are really going to be diving deep into something that is so fun, and that is learning to write a letter. Now, friends, letters are super duper cool. They come in many different forms, and we use them for lots of different reasons. So I want you to think about the schema or the background knowledge that you might have on letters. What is a letter? Why do we need letters in our lives? So let's go ahead. I want you to pause and think. What do you know about a letter? And why do you think we might need a letter in our lives? Think about those two things and then come back when you're ready. Alrighty? So pause and come on back. All right, my friends, hopefully you had some time to think about what is a letter and why do we have letters in our lives? Why do we need them? So boys and girls, when I was thinking about a letter and some schema that I had, I knew that a letter is something that we write down to share and communicate with one another. So for example, I could write a letter to Miss Lavodi and she could read it and then she could write a letter right back to me. And that would be a way for Miss Lavodi and I to share our ideas. So boys and girls, I asked you to think about why we might write a letter, and I'm sure you came up with so many great ideas. If you want to share those ideas, I'm always willing to hear and want to hear. You can comment anywhere on our Google Classroom, you can send me an email, or you can write your thoughts down and take a picture to show me, okay? When I'm thinking about why do we write letters, boys and girls, something that came to mind for me was just to share information. So I'm going to write share information. Share information. Now check in, do you think that you also think letters are to share information? Do you agree, not sure, or disagree? Show me what you think. Letters can be to share information. Another reason why we might write a letter is to say thank you. I know sometimes, boys and girls, when I get a gift or when someone helps me with something, I always like to say thank you. And one way to do that is to write a thank you letter or a thank you card. So I think an important reason to have a letter is to say thank you. So let's go ahead and add to our thinking to say thank. And you is one of our sight words. Y-O-U. Thank you. Thank you is such an important reason to write a letter. Let's think of some more reasons. Now, boys and girls, I could write a letter to Miss Lavodi, and she's right down the hallway from me. So that's one way for me to talk to Miss Lavodi. But friends, could I also just go and walk down to see her? Yeah, I could. Now, boys and girls, there are some people that I would love to write a letter to, and I cannot just walk down to go see them. For example, when I think about my mom and my dad, they are all the way up in Alaska, and I cannot walk to Alaska to say hello and communicate. So boys and girls, sometimes I have to write a letter because that's the only way I can do it, to communicate. So let's add communicate, which means another fancy way for talking or sharing. Communicate. Now, friends, I know some of you are probably thinking, Miss Neal, you could call your mom and dad on the phone. And is that true? Yes, it sure is. I could call my mom and dad on the phone. But boys and girls, I do have some friends that live in places in the world that you cannot call on the phone. They do not have the phone or the internet. For example, when I won't tell you how old, but about 10 years ago, I got to go on a trip to Africa. And I was in Africa for 3 weeks, and I made lots of friends in Africa. But boys and girls, they do not have the same ways to communicate and talk and share that we do. So friends, it's super important that when I communicate to my friends in Africa, that I need to write them a letter because they cannot talk on the phone and I cannot just walk down to their house, can I? So sometimes we write a letter to share information. Sometimes we write a letter to say thank you. Sometimes we write a letter just to communicate. Other times we write a letter because it's the only way to communicate, like my friends in Africa. So I will add that sometimes it's the only way. The only way. So sometimes if we don't have a phone or a way to walk down the street, we have to write a letter to communicate and get in touch and share information. All right? Other ideas that we might have of why do we need a letter? Do we share information? We say thank you. Sometimes it's just to communicate. And sometimes it's the only way to communicate. Oh my goodness. So now, boys and girls, your very important job moving forward this week is I have given you 4 letters to explore on our Google Classroom. And your job is to figure out, what do letters look like? One thing, what do letters look like? And 2, what do letters have that are the same, that they have in common, that they share? Okie dokie. So let me show you one of those examples. It's way up here. Let's see if we can read it. It says, November 30th, 2020. Dear friend, how are you? I'm doing well. Have you learned anything new? I am learning to write a letter. Your friend, Miss Neal. Now, my friends, this letter here is one that communicates and shares information. I am learning to write a letter. How are you? And have you learned anything new? Are questions that are communicating with another person. Because if I ask a question, then this person will need to write me back with an answer, won't they? So friends, here is one example, and I've given you some hints, some things that all of our letters share, and then some things you might find on our 4 letters that are different. Okie dokie? So your job, once we say goodbye, is to find those 4 letters on Google Classroom, and you're going to look and think about, what do letters look like? And 2, what do these letters have that are in common or the same connections that those letters share? Okie dokie, those are your 2 things. I want you to write down some of your ideas in your journal. You can draw a picture or write the words of what you think about what do letters look like and what do letters have in common. Alrighty? Okay, we'll see you next time. Happy exploring!